episode of Stoke Meter, and holy moly, it's finally a sunny day. We have Ryan Guay up there in Missoula, Montana, and he is the CEO of Flayed. We're going to get into what Flayed is. It's actually a really cool product. And then, of course, we have Karch down there who is kicking it in Rocky Point, Mexico today. So, Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely an honor. It always is, and especially to know what you're doing. I'm wondering, first of all, Flayed. When I first heard about this was when you first reached out after a podcast that we had done with Brad Luttrell.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, it was cool stuff, man. I just wonder, what can you tell us about Flayed?
Well, I guess the quick elevator pitch and backstory is myself and my three business partners all worked in the surf and paddleboard industry for about 10 years. A couple of us were part of the original team and brand that really brought inflatable paddleboards to market under C4 Waterman brand and also Boardworks. And that was back in 2009, 10-ish, I would say. And when we launched with inflatable paddleboards, everybody said, you know, these are pool toys. This is crazy. Why are they still $1,000? And everybody just like, and especially the rest of the industry that was making premium epoxy boards, they were just laughing at us. And, you know, I really got into it because I was a whitewater kayaker and we started kind of pioneering whitewater SUP in Colorado and floating rivers on them and doing crazy stuff. And, you know, fast forward many years, it became, you know, now the paddleboard industry is probably 90% inflatable, just due to the fact that, you know, they're more durable, easier to ship, store, you know, just it solved so many problems for us as a business at that time with warehousing, inbound shipping from Asia, you know, and then for us just to be able to ship across the country to a customer for, you know, $40-50 versus $200. Just totally changed the game completely. And over all those years, we were always like, you know, we'd have happy hour conversations and talk about, God, there's got to be something more we can do with this technology, you know, and especially when paddleboarding sort of took a little bit of a dip pre-pandemic. Sales, you know, I would call it the Amazon effect. The prices came down dramatically. Factories were selling direct, and you know, it really was hurting our brand as a premium, you know, one of the innovators of the sport, really. And so, you know, we always had this idea, and it started with many different things, but ultimately it was the beginning of the 2020 pandemic in March. I found myself unemployed for the first time in my adult career. And one of our other business partners was on a furlough because of the pandemic. And, you know, we just sort of had like a happy hour Zoom call one night. We're like, maybe it's time we start working on this. We're all locked down. We have some time. And really the idea was to use inflatable technology to build an inflatable truck topper. That was our first product. And, you know, it's kind of a long, funny story, but our other partner, Ken, who's our most excited, he's our content creator and just a very passionate individual in general. Yeah. And he called me in, I think it was back probably April at this point, because we've been talking about it, but he was like, what's going on? What's going on? Why aren't we doing this? And my wife and I were on our way to Utah to do a 5-day river trip. And Ken's like, you know, I'm really bummed out. I don't think this is going anywhere. I don't think you guys are taking it serious. And he literally, like, my phone, I was like, Ken, don't tell anybody else. And my phone just went dark. And I was out of service for 5 days on the river, wondering if Ken had gone somewhere else with this idea. So we had 5 days to really think about it and kind of have some pretty spiritual moments on the river about what was going to happen when I got back. And pretty much the moment I got off the river, I called him. I'm like, you didn't tell anybody, right? He's like, no, I was waiting for you to get off the river. I was like, okay, cool. And got home, went to work hard on it. And we basically started sampling and, you know, putting the company together, got filed our LLC, started with IP patents and all that stuff. So yeah, that's the long and, you know, kind of the overall story. But along the way, we obviously came out with a few other products. There were some things that just made sense to go along with the topper. And yeah, we launched officially in November of 2021, which was definitely about 6-7 months later than we had originally hoped, but due to supply chain and also just wanting to get, you know, stuff dialed in correctly, that's when it happened. And ever since, it's been good. I've just recently left my other job, and our other partners are still, you know, kind of doing contract work on the side. But we're in full on startup, like nitty gritty, you know, roll up the sleeves and get shit done mode.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
It is. I'm amped that you were in the water sports. And not only that, even in the pandemic, we bought 2 of those inflatable sups. Right there. They're fantastic. And to your point, portable, but I'm just wondering, how in the world did the idea come for a topper for a truck? Because I've been looking at some of the product, and it's robust. Right, it's robust. Looking at some of the YouTube videos and such, I'm sure you probably got a lot of the same reaction as you did when people with solid water stand-up paddle boards were doing it first. What, an inflatable topper? How's that even want to last when you're going 80 miles per hour or any of that kind of stuff? How did you deal with the naysayers when they came out of the woodwork?
Well, you know, to the first part of the question, all of our products are based off of things that are normally super big and cumbersome when you don't need them. You know, stuff that takes up a lot of room in your garage, stuff that, you know, you don't necessarily use all the time, but is nice to have. You know, I've always been a truck driver. I've owned trucks, and I had a fiberglass topper on my truck for years. And, you know, when you want to turn your truck into a truck, it's a pain on the butt. You got to go, you know, find a couple buddies to help you take it off. You got to put it somewhere. And one of our taglines now is we're eliminating yard art, because, you know, a lot of times, and I even have, my neighbor has one right now. It's sitting on 2 sawhorses in his backyard, and I could see it from my window as we speak. And, you know, they're just a pain. And then that's kind of when, you know, the idea of the cargo carrier also came up. It's, you know, they're great to have, but generally people leave them on their car all the time because they take up too much room in the garage. And so obviously that, you know, messes up your gas mileage. And then we have an inflatable dog chalet called the Air Chalet. And, you know, same thing, something that generally people have when they have puppies and, you know, when they're crate training them, but they end up in the garage not being used. It's a big plastic item. So, you know, all of our products now are just things that, you know, solve those problems. And we got plenty more ideas in the works, that's for sure. And back to the naysayer, oh man, you know, sometimes it's hard not to get frustrated when you see online comments. I would say the biggest one is, what, you know, the topper's $2,000 for an inflatable. It's going to pop just like an air mattress, yada, yada. And, you know, it can be frustrating, but the people that get it and they see it and they've purchased them totally understand the problems that it's solving. And we're upfront, like, fiberglass topper is better for a lot of people that are going to have it on full time. Like, totally, that's fine. Like, you know, that's a great product. And, you know, like I said, I've had one for years, but for people that don't want it on all the time and are, you know, crunched for space, you know, there's nothing else like it.
I think it's a fabulous idea. I love it. I kind of went through the inflatable paddleboard, you know, journey, and they are amazing. They're awesome. And then as Maurice knows, I love the outdoors. I love four-wheeling, getting out in the country, you know, and in my experience, one of the biggest boat anchors of a product is like your, you know, rooftop tents. You know what I mean? Like, it's just when you were telling me about, you know, things sitting in people's backyard and stuff like that take up a lot of space, that are super expensive. A rooftop tent is one of those products. Yeah. And so when I see something like you guys are doing, where you, like you said, it gives you the flexibility of, you know, having both. You can have your truck, you can have a tent, you know, the whole thing. To me, that it's you guys are hitting a perfect stride of a product. Yeah. Are you guys seeing any kind of are you getting into kind of that market? Is that kind of your goal, or who's your demographic?
We are. Funny you mention it because earlier this morning, right before this call, I got a comment on TikTok about our air carrier, which is the cargo box. And they're like, oh, it's the same as a hard box. And I'm like, it's designed especially for the person that doesn't want a hard box. And by the way, if you look at the fine print, it costs $200 from one of those brands to ship it to you. We ship free to your doorstep. So, on that note, but yeah, our demographic is evolving every day. I mean, I think when we started this brand, we really thought it was going to be, sort of the REI type of customer, the, outdoor enthusiast, mountain biker, climber, kayaker, kind of, I'd call it in the dirt bag category. That's what we all are. I mean, that, we've all been doing that for years, and we've been sleeping in our truck long before van life was cool and a normal. But what I'm finding with the topper especially is I'm getting a lot of inquiries and some sales from like the ranching community, and because guys that have a like fifth wheel trailers and want to be able to, they can't ever really have a fiberglass topper on there all the time and be able to use their trailer often. So they really like it. And then also an older demographic than I would have thought. Guys that, appreciate that they're light, that you can put them on and off. And I definitely wouldn't have expected that. And then on our air carriers, early on, we got a call from a guy that was like, can I put this on my ATV on my side-by-side? And I was like, yeah, I suppose. And then my partner Ken, he put that on a center console fishing boat. And I was like, okay, just people are using it and stuff that we never would have expected.
Yeah, that's fun. Well, the other thing that really appealed to me was that mattress they have that goes in the back of the bed. I don't know if I'd ever thought about that, because you made it functional. You could put stuff underneath it too, and storage. And for the audience that is listening to this, you're going, what in the world is he talking about? Essentially, it's a bed that it's literally on inflatable legs that you can put stuff in between and sleep on top of your gear. It's fabulous. And
Hey, Mo, you think that's a little step up from the futon I used to jam in the back of my Toyota truck?
Futon, it was an old crappy mattress that you had back there.
Yeah.
But it's so amazing to see the functionality of something that came about. I don't know who came up with that idea, but man, for a camper, that's genius, man. That's multiple people that could sleep back there, because now you don't have to worry about the wheel wells and all that good stuff there. How did that come about?
Well, it was funny because we were already working on the topper, and also during the pandemic when I was locked down, I started I wouldn't even call it a side hustle. It was just a way to make some cash, which was building custom truck bed build outs for people. And I built one for a buddy who's a ski rep in Denver. And like immediately the next day, his guy was like, hey, I got a buddy that wants one too. And so, I built a couple in 1 week, and then I was like, this is kind of fun. I'm outside and, working, and I can't go anywhere else. The whole world's locked down. So I put an ad in Facebook and in Craigslist, and I spent the summer building out custom truck bed inserts out of plywood. And I was building them in a way that they were removable, but still it's a lot of plywood. And, when you don't need them, it takes up a ton of space. And
right,
I think it was probably after about the 10th or 15th, somewhere in there that I was like, wait a minute, I can do this inflatable too. And it was like, it's actually a most simple product by like design. And it was the easiest to get, sampled and sent over. And, it just solves all those problems of being able to, make your bed up, but then store all your gear underneath. There's a lot of mattresses out there, but what happens then is, you have to throw all your stuff on the mattress, and then you get to where you need to camp, and then you throw all that stuff on, under your truck or on the side of your truck. And, this way it's just, you have all your gear there, and you got all the storage underneath, and it's not permanently in there. I mean, every other, commercial product out there, and there's some great ones out there that are competitive. Once you have them in your truck, you generally never take them out, because they're quite extensive to get them installed. And And yeah, they're just big and cumbersome.
Oh no, it's a game changer. I'm looking at that deck. You call it the air deck, right? For the bed. I guess it has multi functions, but what's really cool is it's not just for the back of a truck. You can do it in these big old family vans too, man. It's I can't.
Yeah,
It's so cool.
I imagine there's got to be, I don't know, I'm just thinking as I'm envisioning this stuff, is there's got to be some insulative properties too with your double layer, with your inflatable design. I mean, I don't know how significant that is if you're like in Montana, but I could see even in like a colder climate that you're getting some insulative properties from that.
Yeah,
Cool.
We get the question all the time, what's the R value on it? And the other day I was like, man, I wonder how I could test that. And I was talking to a guy, and this is funny, it's sitting right here. I got one of the thermometers, and I could scan the outside of it. And the other day, it was one of the first nice days in Montana, and the material on the outside was nearly 90 degrees, and then on the inside, it was about 65 degrees. So
yep. Oh, dang.
The 4 inches of encapsulated air is definitely insulating.
Yep.
And then we kind of, we made all the side windows really tinted, so it also keeps it, we were more worried about keeping it cool at first. But then we launched in November, and immediately people started asking, well, how is it in the winter? How is it like, can you camp in the snow? And we're like, well, generally most people camp in the summer, but yeah, I suppose. And so, yeah, and I spent probably about 10, 15 nights in the back of my truck last year during hunting season. And seemed warmer than my old Lear fiberglass topper for sure.
Wow, I never even thought about that it would keep it warmer with air. That is pretty cool.
Air's a great insulator. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad you said something about that, Garrett, because I would have. Whoa.
Well, it's funny because my mind starts racing. I'm like, man, people who ice fish, you may build something for them, build something for there's so many opportunities. That's what's so cool. Yeah. I know you guys are at the beginning stages, and it's got to be kind of overwhelming at some point with just trying to, first of all, get it going, and then then getting the word out. What is some of your where have you seen the most success as far as on the marketing side?
Well, we've bootstrapped this thing as much as we could, because the products are expensive. That means our cost of goods are pretty high, and so, but all 4 of the original partners, I mean, we've all held VP and C-level positions within other companies in the outdoor industry. So really, we got together with like this A team of people that we have all worked together over the years, and all have an extremely robust tool set. And so, but everybody does a different thing. Monique's our CFO. She's all things financial. She keeps me and the boys on in check on our spending and what we're doing. And then Ken, who I mentioned earlier, he's done all the content creation, videos, all of that for social. We've done all of that in-house. And then Dan Watts is our product designer and lead creative. He's built our website 100% himself with some help from me as well. But so we have a lot of experience building brands. We've spent the past basically 20 years, all of us building other brands and for other people, and it was really our time to do it for ourselves. But funny enough, we've gotten a ton of traction off of TikTok.
Nice.
Yeah. I started like playing around with TikTok again during the pandemic, because my 17-year-old stepdaughter all of a sudden went like ultra viral on TikTok, and I'm like, what's this all about? Like, I'm gonna make it an account and like start playing around with it, and found it really fascinating, and just the way that you can really curate your audience and your feed just by what you're liking and what you're following. And so before we even launched the brand, I created the Flayed TikTok page and started following auto sites and started posting funny photos of like homemade camper shells and stuff. So I was building my audience before we even ever launched a product, and nobody really knew what we had up our sleeves. But then all of a sudden, the day that we had the products to sell. We already had an audience. It was already curated to the auto market, kind of truck side of things, a little bit on the redneck side, but it was all there. And then so yeah, TikTok, social in general, Facebook and Instagram is a lot harder these days to get all those kind of free eyeballs. But we have a good paid social strategy. And then we do have a PR firm that we work with, and we've gotten some really good earned media, right out of the gate. So yeah, a little bit of a combination of all of that. And then, word of mouth, some industry stuff. We know a lot of people in the outdoor industry, and getting those guys using our stuff and driving around, sales reps driving around territories with our stuff on is ultimately the best advertising, is just our products out on the road.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I got to ask you, durability wise, too, anyone's going to get in there. And I know we talked about it briefly, but what can I expect if I was picking up something like this? How durable can I expect it to be? And what, that little comfy thing, what kind of warranty, if any, are there, so on and so forth. And I know they're still really new, but I know it'd be something that people would ask.
We get asked, all day, every day. And the biggest differentiating point is, drop stitch inflatable technology, which is used in stand-up paddleboards, which is used in whitewater raft floors. It's a PVC, material, but it's connected with thousands and thousands of fibers that make essentially a panel. And so a lot of people have it in their brain of that, air mattress that you blow up when, you have visitors come into town, but it's so different than that. It's super, super rigid. That's why we can haul loads on the top of our topper and everything else. And when people ask that, I mean, yes, obviously it's inflatable, so it could, get punctured. Could you stab a knife in it and puncture it? Absolutely. But it's also the same material that whitewater raft floors are made out of. And, they last forever if you take care of them. And they go over rocks, sticks, trees, generally, it's really, really durable, rugged material. A lot of people ask about the topper, for off-roading, what happens if, there's a sharp branch or stick or something. And, my thing is, branches and general stuff that you wouldn't worry about scratching your car or breaking a window isn't really going to have an effect on this product. If it's something that would dent your truck or really scratch your truck, you might not want to drive through there. I mean, it's kind of like one of those things.
Go figure.
But on the other side of it, if you do puncture it, it's actually really easy to repair it. It's a material that can be easily patched. And yeah, I just spent Monday rafting with a buddy up here, and we were in a whitewater raft that my dad and my grandfather bought when I was a kid. So it's nearly 40 years old. And we've just always taken care of it. We put it away at the end of the season. We treat it with a UV protectant, and we just store it right. And the thing's 40 years old, and we're still running whitewater on it. And so, I think if you take care of these products, I think they're going to last many, many years. And yeah, so far, we haven't really had that many issues. Honestly, the only issues we've seen with any leaking has been right out of the box, really. And that's just some, when we've tweaked a few things, we've, kind of overbuilt some areas that we know that could have a tendency to leak. So, but yeah, it's my truck topper outside has been on since last October, and I've never once topped it off with any air since then. And that's gone down. Oh my
goodness. Holy.
Gone down to probably negative, 15, 20 degrees up here over the winter. And yeah, it's blown me away. I would have expected it would sort of leak over time, but it's pretty bomber.
That is great. Well, I love one of the monikers that you have on your site, innovation by experience. And it's not like you're going to put a product out there that is going to fail. And just looking at the backgrounds of you and the other partners in the organization, it's obvious that they have a very vested interest in how it will impact the lives of the users. And I get the feeling, and this is dorky philosophizing, but doesn't seem to me that the mighty dollar is the thing that's driving you. It's actually something from in speaking with you that you really want to make an impact out there with the people that are getting your product, but just even from an environmental standpoint, it looks like think of all the plastic you're taking off of the earth to go a little granola-y, but hey, I just that's pretty amazing stuff, right?
Yeah, well, our team is very special. I mean, that is the secret sauce to what we've done, and what we've created without any outside help. And all of the products are based on things that we all use too. We have a lot of industry experience on the business side, but we also all play really hard outdoors. And the funny story on that is Monique, our CFO, after about 2 or 3 months of going through, sitting on Zoom meetings with 3 dudes, she was like, guys, I'm the only one without a truck. What can I put on my SUV? And we're like, huh? And just get a truck. And so she actually was the one that came up with the idea for the air carrier. She had just gone on a family road trip, multi-state to Colorado, actually to go on a raft trip with us, and they borrowed one of those bags that they put on the roof and strapped it down, and it flapped the whole time, and it was just miserable. It got wet, and it scratched their car. And so she's like, can we make an inflatable rooftop carrier? And we're like, we think so. So we and so no, it's like, we all work together really well. We don't really have to manage each other very much, and we just get stuff done and pressing forward. And yeah, the big goal for us, I think, was always just the fact that we've been grinding so hard for other brands for so many years, and we had talked about doing stuff for years on our own, but we all had pretty comfortable, well-paying jobs, and didn't have the balls to jump out of that and go do it on our own. And it took the pandemic and being alone with the family and just hanging out and kind of readdressing life and future to go for it.
Well, I'm blown away that you guys are able to get a physical product in hand so fast. That is incredible.
And during a pandemic.
Well, even without that barrier, that's very difficult to get something, especially of that magnitude. It's not like you're building, bottle openers or something. These are very specialized, very large items. How did you guys manage that?
Well, at some point, I'll show the photo of the first sample the factory sent us. It was actually just a photo. And I was like, oh God, it's not possible. It just looked horrific. Like it just made us totally second guess if it was even possible. Because, we're doing stuff with inflatable technology that really hasn't been done much before, which is, making bends and corners and, putting shape into it. And they couldn't do it at first. They
were learning too, huh?
They were learning too. And luckily, with our industry experience, we knew the best factories, and we knew the people that, we wanted to go to, the factories that we could trust. And, with the ideas, I mean, obviously the biggest fear of going to outside factories is that, it can be knocked off, or, another brand is in the factory and they see it and they're like, oh, make me one of those too. So we, with a lot of experience and having worked with many, many different factories with inflatables, we knew who to go to. And, honestly, at first they're like, we don't have time. Paddleboards were blowing up during the pandemic, and I essentially had to give a pitch to the factory on what we were doing. And then they really got it. They were like, I think they realized this is a potential to break outside of water sports and go, into a whole different realm. And, and that was the goal. And yeah, it's been great. And they're still a great partner. Our Dan, my product designer, is actually in Vietnam today. And this is the first time he's been able to travel to the factory just due to, travel restrictions due to the pandemic. And so, I'm really excited that he's there right now, just dialing in a few things, just some details and our next renditions and next sizes of what we're making. It's been really challenging out of the gate to know what sizes to make for trucks, and we just based it off the trucks that we owned that we could test them on. And but then very quickly we started getting requests for all sorts of different stuff that I didn't know that there was going to be a market for. So we're trying to address that now, and trying to be cautious not to chase other ideas before we get this one dialed, because we have a lot more ideas outside of this space, but I think we have a lot more room to grow in just the different truck sizes and making our current products even better.
I'm glad you said that, focusing on one thing at a time. I've found that a lot of entrepreneurs will go, hey, look, squirrel. And the fact that you're doing it from a very strategic approach is pretty comforting. Now, this is a very selfish thing. I'm in the process of getting a truck, a Tacoma specifically. I'm wondering, how fast can I drive my truck when it's here with a flayed thing without any like crazy, if in one of the air carriers, without any waddle or anything like that? Is it going to inhibit any of that speed or anything with the drag? I wouldn't imagine the topper would, but
well, my liability insurance guys would make sure I say that we suggest that you just drive the speed limit. But it's we've tested it at highway speeds. In Montana, our speed limit's 80.
Yep.
And so it's been tested legally at highway speeds and maybe a little bit above. But yeah, it's surprisingly rigid. And that's one of the first questions people ask, even when we do in-person events. They're like, oh, so you just put it up when you get there? We're like, no, you drive with it, like, you full time. And, oh, whoa. And so yeah, it's wild. I mean, it's way more stable than we ever would have anticipated when we designed it. And at one point we were having a hard time bending the material to make the roof line a little bit better. And so we had tested a 2-inch drop stitch for the ceiling. Well, that made it sag a little bit, and it was a little bit of an internal argument over this. And I was like, we need to be able to show that this is so rigid that, you could basically stand on it. Again, I'm not supposed to say that for the liability guys, but that's really the moment when people are like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, we can very safely say that you could put more weight on the top than you would generally put on the top of your, fiberglass topper, just right on the top. If you don't have
That's amazing.
That is amazing. And by the way,
so
you taught
cool.
me something. I never knew that you couldn't stand on a fiberglass shell. So basically what you're saying, I was lucky. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I have one photo on our Instagram page that is from a fishing trip I took with some buddies this winter, and I got 3 dudes sitting on the side of the topper that are all pretty, so there's over 600 pounds of men on the side of it. And
well, the nice thing is knowing that a few of you came from the paddleboard industry. In a pinch, man, you can probably use one of those as a boat, man.
Oh yeah, there's been talks of that too.
I think how cool would that be? Is if you could go in a topper and then inflate the other things like a boat, and then take it off and go in the lake. That'd be great, man.
Well, I think it's got to be fun just being in an industry where you're getting people outside, getting people doing stuff besides sitting on their phone. I mean, that just seems, I don't know, it's so hard for me because I grew up outdoors. I grew up playing. Maurice and I used to hang out all the time back in the day, doing adventures, just getting into trouble out in the middle of nowhere. And, it hurts me when I see, the kids just sitting around on their phone, just kind of like plastered. Is any kind of industry where it gets people out and into the world, it to me is just amazing. It's so fun. So that it's got to be kind of rewarding for you to be part of that.
It totally is. And what's funny is, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, we've always been, sleeping in the back of our trucks and camping dudes and all that. But it's funny, it took the pandemic for people to realize that they can go on road trips and go travel in their own state. And there's most people live in most people live in areas where they could go camping within an hour away from their house. And so, a big part of our inspiration is like, you could take your normal everyday work truck and turn it into an adventure rig in like 30 minutes and go out for the weekend. And, especially now with gas prices and with, airplane ticket costs are just crazy this summer. It's like, man, maybe you don't need to go across the country or to a different country. You can go explore your neighborhood, go explore, your backyard, your state. There's so much cool stuff. I mean, I've always been lucky to live in cool places in Colorado and now in Montana and in San Diego, but like there's just, even in all of those places, there's so many areas within an hour of here that I've never seen. And, I think, and I get out a lot, but, the average person, I don't think has really grasped that. I mean, it is way more popular now with the van life and the truck life and campers, but even now we're getting inquiries from people that are like, it's too expensive this summer to pull my RV. So now I just want to camp in my truck. And so it's funny, like we said earlier, with our audience is changing every day, and we're learning from them, as we go, and how people are using this stuff and why they think they need it.
I love
Well, it's funny. I have a 1979 Land Cruiser FJ40. I love that. Just a blast. And I remember I was picking up some parts from an old gentleman back in the day. I'm sure he's no longer around. But we were talking about, just getting out and doing stuff. And his philosophy was, if you can afford a can of pork and beans, you can afford to go camping. And you can take your kids out and you can go out and you can have a good time. And then, once you start doing that, and then that's where, then you want to do it more. That's where a product like yours comes into play, where it gives you more flexibility with the equipment you already have. You know what I mean? Like, that's significant. That's a big deal. Because like you said, I remember, some of these build outs on, like your SUVs and stuff like that, you've just made that into a dedicated vehicle. Whereas now you have the best of both worlds. You know what I mean? I think it's an incredible product. I'm excited to see where you guys go. I know the sky's gonna, endless opportunity. This is a great idea.
Yeah, no, that's what I say a lot, as far as getting outside. I was thinking about it the other day when I was on this raft trip. I was thinking, do I need a new raft? I'm like, no, not really, because this one is great. But I was trying to think of like how much it cost us to use that raft that day. And after 40 years, it's probably next to nothing of, it was probably 10 cents that, but, it's an investment to get into some of these things, obviously, and it's not cheap, but, once you have it, I think it inspires you to get outside and go do stuff. And I think it pays itself off really, really fast. I mean, Montana and Idaho is a great example. Like these past 2 summers, hotel rooms in Bozeman last summer, there was a Motel 6 room going for $400 a night.
A Motel 6.
Yep.
Because
Oh my goodness. Nuh-uh. Yeah. I will buy the flayed thing so that I can put that bad boy on my truck and just go, man.
Well, see, and that's the beauty of it though, too. Like you said, it is an investment, but instead of paying $400 a night or even, $60 a night times 10, you can buy your product one time.
Yep.
And you're set. You're ready to roll.
And you can go park with a river view or
exactly.
Yep.
Exactly right. Well, and the funny thing is when I asked you about, turn the topper into a boat after it, you didn't say anything. You just gave that thing, man. And so I know there's other things in the works, man.
We're focused.
Either that or he's just like, Maurice, you moron. What are you talking about?
No, we're focused on the automobile stuff at the moment. And, some other stuff coming out, but we're going to stay out of water sports for a bit. We're going to leave that to our friends that are still in that industry and partner up with them for some things. But we are going to do an in-person consumer event in Colorado in a couple weeks. Tibark. It's the world's oldest whitewater festival in Salida, Colorado. And so we're going down there and going to be camping and showing our stuff off and having a good time and reconnecting with all of our people in the water sports world.
So basically, I'm going to miss you by 1 week then. I'm going to be an outdoor retailer next week.
Oh, yeah. That what's funny, and this will be, I've only missed, I think, 2 outdoor retailers in the past 20 years of my career. One was for the birth of my daughter, and then now this one. Unfortunately, I still love the show, and it just doesn't make sense for our brand yet to go there. We thought about it for last winter OR, but really for us, we're really focused on consumer-facing events where we can, let people see it, and we can potentially sell direct on site.
Well, I am pumped to see where you go. And we definitely, as the brand goes and goes, would love to keep in tabs with you and make sure that we do what we can to help you, but also just to spread the stoke of your product because it's so blasted cool.
And real quick, tell us how to get up. What's your website? What's your TikTok? How do people find you guys?
Yeah, so our website is flayed.com or getflayed.com. We actually had getflayed.com was the domain we could get first, and then we ended up buying flayed.com. But yeah, so either one works to the site, and then our social handles are all flayed or get flayed. TikTok is at flayed. And pretty active on LinkedIn also myself, and then the brand. And yeah, we're starting to actually go into some limited retail and some 4x4 accessory and overlanding shops in key regional markets. And hopefully very soon we'll be also announcing that we'll be in one of the largest outdoor chains in the country.
Yes,
our products. So
I hope it's the one right by us.
Yeah, so that should be hopefully happening very, very soon, and we can announce that. But yeah, we're just trying to get our name out there through events and through our website and through social and through conversations like this. And these are really helpful because it's hard to tell our kind of founder story and brand story on a website. And there's a lot behind the curtain on how this whole thing has come about, and hasn't been easy. And some days I think I'm still crazy for doing it, but
you got to be a little bit.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, again, when you're ready, feel free to reach out to us. Would love to continue on with the conversation, but also to celebrate the success that you will inevitably have.
Appreciate it. Sure. Let me know when you make it up north, up to Montana, and I'll take you out for an adventure on the river.
I'm all over that, man.
Me with a good time, man. I'm in.
You are awesome. Well, Ryan, thanks for your time. It is much appreciated.